Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Pei Ling from CGSI. We'll start our webinar shortly. While we wait for other attendees to join. Let's wait for 1-2 minutes before we officially start the webinar. All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to today's webinar on why Singapore's markets move like gold. Okay, this is going to be an exciting session where we explore the unique dynamics of Singapore's market and uncover why it behaves in a way similar to one of the world's most fascinating assets, gold. Before we begin, please note that this webinar is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The content that is shared by our speaker today does not constitute any financial advice, and any examples or discussions about the investments are purely for illustrative purposes. Okay, we are thrilled to have Mr. Wong Kon Hao today, a highly respected market strategist and educator for years of experience in trading and investment analysis. And today he will share his perspective on what makes Singapore market tick and how you can leverage this understanding in your strategies. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Kon Hao to kick things off. Over to you, Kon Hao.
Thank you, Pei Ling. I hope you can see me. I believe I'm still sharing my slide. I'll just go straight into the topic tonight, why Singapore's market moves like gold. In fact, I think Singapore market is lagging behind gold. Gold is already well advanced. But the good news is that it means that if we are lag behind gold, it also means that we have more runway, just like gold. So I will just give you a skeleton of what I'm going to discuss here tonight. I'm seeing a lot of similarity between gold and Singapore market. So we're going to study about the price behavior through charts. Then I'm going to back up with fundamental, why Singapore market moves like gold. Then I'm going to discuss about the importance of the foreign direct investment and also the for us to direct invest outside of Singapore as well. That one is as important. I think the second part about the DIA will be what are the opportunity that we should not miss and what we should be looking out for those direct investment abroad. And later on, towards the end, before the Q&A, Pei Ling will take over. I'm not too sure you can start submitting a question. I believe you can. Then Pei Ling will evaluate the question, and we're going to have a time of dialogue together. So there'll be Q&A. But before that, we're going to take on about some even today case study, what we can look at for today's market as well. Or even we can do it during the Q&A, of course, if time provided. So very quickly, I just want to move on to the second slides that I have. So I'm specialized in quantamental analysis. Now, what is quantamental analysis? Though it's not found in any university, but self-study, and of course with some reference with other experts as well. So what is quantamental analysis? It means that we look at both technical and fundamental analysis. And you're going to see a lot of it. To me is personally, I like technical, and technical will speaks to me always. And it gives me the timing. It will not be perfect timing, but it gives me the timing when is the opportunity to get into the market with a calculated risk. But it's also very important that for me to also back up with fundamental, what I see on the technical, does it hold true? But similarly, I can do a reverse play as well. Sometimes fundamental speaks to me first, and I will have to also look at my technical to confirm that my understanding about the market that is about to move it kind of using technical to confirm. So either way, but my personal preference to build up that efficiency in investment and trading is I start with technical analysis first. So we're going to see some of it, or maybe quite a bit of that, how I uh, use both technical and fundamental analysis to make sense of the market. It's not just making sense, but literally to take opportunity of the market. So again, that's my own personal disclaimer. What I present to you here is that I always take an honor and a pleasure to have different platform to share about the market, my view, my insight. But all these are based on my personal conviction. Is by no means that it's a recommendation to buy or sell any shares. So if you maybe it's through the my presentation tonight, you felt very inspired or you have certain understanding, want to get into action, say tomorrow or next week, you remember what we discussed here. But please remember that you take your own responsibility and do consult your broker, who is a CGSI. So let's look at the gold and Singapore market. I think it's a very interesting topic. This is the first time I craft this topic. I took a few days to craft this topic, and it's always in my heart. But thankfully, CGSI asked me to source for any interesting that their client are interested to know. I think that you should know this. And I did a bit of research work here is that I compare between Gold and STI. So I want you to take a few moments to look at the price behavior between Gold and STI. Uh, Tell me what you think, because I also hope that it's not just listen to me for the next 45 minutes or with 50 minutes of Q&A, but I also want you to uh, have that skill to analyze the market first, technically first, then we'll get into the fundamentals. Now, what you see that is um, quite in synchronized together with Go and STI. Okay, let me just give you what I'm seeing here. So over the last many, many years, in fact, STI and Go has been moving in the same direction in a range-bound trade. If you still remember, not that long ago, a lot of investor in Singapore has been complaining that Singapore stock is so boring. I think you can remember that, right? For those that has been investing for the last 10 years, maybe you're the one of them saying that Singapore market is so boring. Uh, but when the market range bound, there is a technique how to capture the market. Basically, we do not be passive. So, of course, a welcome answer or question from you that why in the past Singapore was in a range bound market. I have an answer for you, but maybe later on, if you have a question, I will answer that to your question. Then, as we look at the market between the gold and STI, I could see there's some similarity. That's called behavior price study. We study into the chart, we study into the behavior. I tried to form an opinion why, and I found that there is market started to move after the COVID-19. Then after the post-COVID-19, which is 2022, you could see that it formed another hump. And it's not by accident that STI also formed another hump. Of course, STI, that hump is not that obvious. But what we could see here is that gold start to rally. STI also start to rally, but not as much as gold in percentage gain. But I think potential is there. So we're going to discuss why is it so. But I hope that with this slide, will get you excited that it's not just a topic that it seems interesting, but it's really based on study. I'm seeing a relationship. So before I present you the answer why the Go and STI have this almost in synchronization together, maybe I will encourage you to start forming an idea. What is the fundamental reason? I think you may start to form some idea on your end, but I will let you know anyway. So the fundamental reason what I discover is that first, let's talk about gold first. Now, what's the key reason why investor invest in gold? You want to give it a try? I'm not too sure if you want to. Maybe I should give it a try to make this session a little bit more interactive. Let me see if I can call up the chat box. If I know how to call up the chat box here. Uh, yeah, I think I could see the chat box here. Okay, maybe I should ask you a question here that what's the key reason why investor invest in gold? Maybe someone can participate. Just give me one or two answer. What do you think? It's a safe haven. Yeah. So AH says a safe haven. I totally agree with you. Uh, Chan say that gold seems to be better investment now. Yes. I'm still in position of gold, but I don't think I want to add any new position. But I don't mind to get in new position for Singapore market on the next dip. So we're going to discuss why on the next dip. So one more answer, why gold? I think safe haven is the right answer. Yeah, I think the other one that you say that SC, yeah, I love your answer here is that maybe US currency is weak. There's only two contribution here, but you got the right answer. You hammer it. I will have to say this. Now, why investor invest in gold? Let me clear off the chat box here. I just realized that with the chat box open, I'm unable to proceed for my next slide here. It's safe haven and it's a hedge against inflation. So, as you mentioned about the against the currency, you are right because with the de-dollarization or the when currencies, not just in US dollars, but many currencies weaken, including the yen, and other developing nations, the currency weaken, uh, things get more expensive, right? So it's also gold is an inflation hedge, is a currency hedge as well. So we received two answers, but both are the right answer, and that get me very excited to really move on. And how is it comparable about Singapore market and gold? We're gonna discover that. That's the whole thing about uh, webinar here. Now let's discuss about investor invest in gold because it's a safe haven against what in the backdrop of geopolitical tension, uncertainties, crisis. Is there geopolitical tension? Lots of it. Is it over yet? Not yet. What are the uncertainties? There's a lot of uncertainties like right now. Just over the past few weeks, there's a lot of uncertainty about could AI overvaluation. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it is still a concern. Yeah, inflation, it is still a concern. Some say that December will cut. I personally, it doesn't matter if it cut, but I think the inflation is. We still have to watch it very closely whether inflation may make a U-turn. I personally, I suspect that there's a risk that inflation may make a U-turn. So what if it cut in December, but it is still concern? Crisis all the time. So now, and hedge against inflation, which I think I gave you an answer earlier. In fact, a lot of currencies are depreciating. And I think the good news here is that in this platform that I'm presenting at home, um, in our market, I think the good news is that in Sing dollar, when I say currency depreciation, I think a lot of investors in Singapore were able to appreciate much better because we deal in Sing dollars. And when we deal in Sing dollars, we could recognize that Sing dollars remain really strong. I'm not suggesting that over the you look at the past few months that or you find that the let's say Sing dollar and ringgit has started to come down 3.5 to 3.18 about there. You said, oh, Singapore dollars is weakened. I'm not talking about all the short term. I'm talking about long term. Yeah. So if you talk about in the 1980s, not even 1980s, when the first time I went to US, that was uh, in the year 2000, I think, or before 2000, I can't remember. The dollar sing rate was about 1.8. Yeah. 1.8 today, dollar sing rate is at 1.3, right? So in that sense, the Sing dollars have appreciated against the US dollars quite a bit in fractional term, in percentage. So when a currency depreciated, you can also benchmark on the yen or the pound or the Aussie or the New Zealand dollar against Sing dollars and the ringgit against Sings over the last few decades. You'll realize that the Sing dollars is pretty strong. So in fact, if you say that Singapore having a lot of inflation, wait until you travel overseas. In their position, you will realize that inflation is really you can really feel it because of the weaker currency. So I think the plus point that we have is that we have a very strong Sing dollars. So now, when a gold, you have to look at gold as gold is a currency because I just received a question from one of the American in another platform in another community. They asked me a question about because I think he saw one of my insight. He felt very intrigued, so asked me a lot of question about currency. I said, yeah, currency is good, but I think the gain for currency if you trade, I think he of course is holding a lot of US dollars, but if you trade against other currency, I think the margin may not be a lot. You when I talk about the dollar sink, that was 1.8 to about 1.3. It take about few decades, right? Um, so I asked him that look at precious metal. Gold is one thing, of course, for in this context, in collaboration with SGX, you can always look at gold ETF. Now, position gold as a currency because the other currencies are not exactly ready yet to take over the US dollars. So I think there's still sometimes at least half a decade or a few decades for the another group of currency to surface to be a reserve currency. So while that happened, who is the next best currency is actually gold. So later I'll show you a slide where I compare gold and US dollars because to me, I understood this long time ago with a good friend of mine who's also an economist that he said look at gold as a currency. And the moment he said that, that was a few decades ago, is that immediately I love gold. I look at gold in a different perspective. Just look at gold versus US dollars, just like US dollars versus Sing dollar. So the best currency hedge against the other currencies, not just the US dollars, to me is the precious metal. We will cover that later on. But I just want to see that the synchronization of between gold and STI that it moved together. That was the first hump during the COVID when COVID started until it kind of uh, the before the post-COVID, right? So we could see that what are the events there? Pandemic, start of inflation. You still remember in year 2022 in June, the US inflation hit a high of 9%. And that's where our fixed D start to move up, right? Because our fixed D really benchmark on the Fed rate. Our fixed D went up to about, I think, one point about 3% um, because of start of inflation, and inflation to me, in my opinion, it's not exactly over yet. We still have to be very hawkish about what's happening to the inflationary number, especially on the US side. Then we have the Russian-Ukraine war. And the second harm we have is the Middle East war. And also, basically, we start to felt the cost of living pressure is getting higher and higher. Now, the next one, what we could see here as we enter into year 2024 is that with the tariffs war 2.0, it got more intensified. And we could see that even greater measure, we're seeing a lot of the dollarization that's going on. Yeah, so these are what we see in gold, but we're going to discuss that very shortly on the STI as well. Now, so can Singapore equities serve as both safe haven assets and also a hedge against inflation? Now, based on my understanding, I would say yes, definitely. In fact, I'm seeing that. The first time I advocate that Singapore is a safe haven, that was in 2020 in November. Yeah, so I did a webinar at home, everybody locked down, COVID. I did a presentation with SGX and a collaboration with another broker in Hong Kong because a lot of institutions there are buying up Singapore stocks somewhere in July 2020. So they asked me if I know the reason why. I say, okay, I think I know the reason why. So November, I present a topic. I present a topic that, but you have to understand that situation there was COVID-19. It was very uncertain. I say Singapore is a great place to park your money here. And literally, it's not because I'm a Singaporean. And maybe it's also true I'm a Singaporean, therefore I understand the market better. But even if I'm not a Singaporean, if I understand about Singapore market, I would advocate that because good dividend payout, strong Sing dollars, in a world of turbulence in 2020, even today, I just need a safe place to park my money here. Yeah. So now, I would have to say that it fulfilled this in the midst of geopolitical tension, uncertainty, crisis that's ongoing. We're going to study that later on, yeah, by looking at more and more market about Singapore market. And let me just showcase one example why I felt the Singapore market was a safe haven back then, starting from 2020. But along the timeline, we have this talk between myself and CGSI. I think that was started about 2.5 years ago. Yes, yeah, that was in October 2022. I've had webinar with CGSI. Now let's share about the slides that I discussed back then. In 2020 COVID, I recognized as start advocate that Singapore is a safe haven. So this was what I'm seeing, but I need the market to show me. So for the first time in 2022, so 2 years later, right? So I do a comparison between Nasdaq and STI. It was the inflation pressure was kicking in at a point in time. That was in 2021, 2022. We could see that Nasdaq start to dip, right? But during the same period, that means I measure from the same period from somewhere in December 2021 to around March in 2022. So it's the same period. For the first time in history, since I stepped into the financial market in 1995, I saw an outstanding performance what Singapore market have done. I never see this phenomenon before in a almost a few months, as you could see, 4 months period. I never see this phenomenon before because in the past, my experience is that when US market move up, our Singapore market will move up, but in a lesser measure. But when US market move down, our market seems to have moved down in the same magnitude, but sometimes moved down even more. So that was Singapore market. But back then in 2022, for the first time, I'm seeing a flight to quality. When US are having trouble, their inflation are rising at a point in time, I could see that the funds are flowing into the Singapore equity. Now, how do I know? I do not know. But just based on this understanding, by looking at the different market, I have to make an assumption. Yeah, because the market is packed with liquidity. When one market is down and another market is up, to me is quite clear cut. There's a flight to quality when things are uncertain. It seems to me at a point in time, for the first time, there's evidence showing me that the flight to quality is coming into Singapore. Yeah. And then in June 2022, that's where the market started to melt down. Of course, Singapore market, we are a small economy. When the big boys start to have start to catch a cold, we will have catch a cold as well, right? So that was in June 2022. June, the inflation number hit a half 9%. So that year itself, starting from 2022 to end of the year, the whole year, of course, we cannot remember by now. Most of us are very forgetful. But that year, the whole year of 2022, the Nasdaq was down 37%. But if I look at the whole STI, it was just down 14%. So it was also a very interesting phenomenon. I've never seen this before, a comparison between US market and Singapore market. Finally, for the first time since 1995, when I started in this industry, I finally felt quite um, I felt very honored that I'm feeling proud for Singapore market. If finally we are showing them showing that ourselves that we are quite uh uh there's a strong base. Singapore is not doing that bad. Just by doing this comparison. Now, so moving forward on the another webinar that I have with CGSI on 30th May 2024. That was May. That was just last year. Um, Now, you still remember in 2020 during COVID, I presented a topic in Hong Kong at home, at the comfort of home. I said that Singapore is a safe haven. But in 2024, 4 years later, Morgan Stanley said that as well, that Singapore is a safe haven in a difficult global environment. So I just want to share with you that Singapore market has positioned as a safe haven. Now, why is it important? To me, it's absolutely important because uh, as a Singapore investor investing in Singapore stock market as well, I need the overseas investors to come in to support. Yeah, so they form the liquidity in time of trouble where other market may have some meltdown, but we may have some meltdown, but I think the downside will be a little bit more measured. So to me, that's important because if I'm going to park the money here in Singapore, I do not want my market to be that volatile. I want it to have a nice appreciation. So the liquidity coming into Singapore market equities to me is important. Yeah. So it don't cause that kind of huge gap, huge meltdown. Yeah. So that was the in 2024 the slides that I share. Of course, this maybe not be most updated, but that was last year May that I share. I think it's important to know that East Asia growth is about 4.4. Of course, Singapore is a developed nation. Our growth has come down to about 2, so it's more on the global average. But we have to understand that we are very closely knitted with the ASEAN market. So as long as they do well, we will wrap it off as well. So it's important. And Singapore being part of the ASEAN market, guess what? The size is fourth to fifth largest. The fourth will be Germany. So we have first being US, China, Japan. And for the whole ASEAN market, we are fourth or fifth. Yeah. So between maybe Germany and ourselves. That was in last year, 2024. This year may be different, but I just want to I captured this presentation from last year. I just want to bring over with CGSI to give you a point of reference why Singapore is a gemstone in a time of uncertainty. Yeah. So just the some numbers again. In 2023, our foreign direct investment flow reached a record of 141 billion. That was up from 1 year ago earlier. Yeah. So and let me just this is interesting here is that the foreign direct investment in worldwide we are after US and China. Now, US and China are so huge, right? But we come in third. That means the world receive money of investment pouring into the country. Then it's US, China, and also we came in third. Singapore, we came in third, which it accounts for two-thirds the size of ASEAN country. So these are very important because it creates a whole ecosystem. Yeah, you may be buying or investing into some mid-cap stocks, but you have to understand it's a whole ecosystem. Is the if the other listed company or non-listed company is doing well, that mid-cap stock, Singapore stocks you're buying is a whole ecosystem. The whole ecosystem support each other. So in a way, this is important aspects. Yeah. So in that was May 2024, right? The presentation I made with CGSI. So the STI back then was at 3003. Yeah, so then we started with technical. So you still remember that in just in May 2024 last year, about 1.5 years ago, less than 1.5 years ago, Singapore market is still trapped in the range. So back then, our discussion is that we are seeing that Singapore is a safe haven. That's without a denial that Singapore is a safe haven. We're seeing that, but we are still trapped in the range. So technically, on the month of May 2024, I make this presentation. I say that in any quarter, because what we're seeing here is a quarterly chart, the 3-month chart. I say any quarter, if it close above this resistant line, which I've just drawn, so we could see literally in the history, it have tested numerous times. And why is this important? Because if you switch to a yearly chart, you'll see that it's still rested at about 3,471. Yeah. So any quarter, if it close above this 3,004, technically, I think that Singapore is going to finally, for the first time, break away the range over the past few decades, and it should trend. Okay, that's what we have discussed in May 2024. That was last year. So then what happened here is that on the third quarter of 2024, the close of third quarter of 2024, finally it closed above. So it came early, and then here we are today. So today the market is still trading at 4,518. So I want to see the beautiful part about understanding the fundamental, the macro fundamental, and you use the technical to appreciate. No, so that analysis was that fundamental, it seems well in the macro level, but Singapore market, we could see that it's still stuck in a range, in a wedge, below the wedge. So sometimes I just need the market to give me the thumbs up, then before I start to add on. So of course, along the timeline, personally, I bought some, but didn't really pour in the kind of desirable level that I want. I need the price to show me that yeah, it's coming. The momentum is here. So that's where technical is important. That's where even today, of course, I collected some of the Singapore market here. But when the market, especially in third quarter 2024, it closed firm, and that's where how I strategize my portfolio is that I continue to add on. That means I have the confidence to add on the winning position that I have. So personally, I do not add on to my losses. There will be some condition I will add on to my losses only if the market I'm seeing value that not many people are noticing it. It's still a profitable company. So I don't mind to add on to the losses because the whole objective is different. I want to average it down to have a collection of that particular stocks. So that is not exactly add on to the losses. It's more like adding on to a stocks that I like that have not been noticed by many other investor. Yeah, so there's accumulation. Yeah, so that's a different story completely. So, and Singapore, is it a hedge against inflation? The answer is definitely a yes. So earlier I spent a bit of time describing about gold as a currency, but Sing dollar is also a currency. And on 27 October 2022, I think that was the first few month of engagement I have with CGSI. I presented the relationship between gold and dollar. So later on, I'm going to present you where's the Sing dollar. Yeah. So I present the topic about look at gold as a currency. It means that, currency is always a pair, right? When one currency come down, the other currency will go up. It's not maybe go up, it will go up. So I'm seeing this relationship between the dollar and the gold. So during this period, I make an observation here is that when dollar index is down, gold is up. Yeah, it's not just one period, but every period. So when dollar is up, gold is down. And the interesting part here is that when US dollars is down by 66%, you look at how much gold have flipped. It move up from about $200 to about 1,923. Yeah, so this is dollar and this gold. So at the point in time, gold is up, then sorry, dollar is up, gold is down. So where are we today? Is that I kind of flip it, yeah, because now I prefer to look at gold on the left side. Yeah. So in the past, I have no order. But if you notice here is that dollar has been moving down since 2022. It has been moving down. And also since 2022, if you notice that gold finally for the first time about 1,006 have moved up to today about 4,400. So today gold is at 4,155. Can you see that relationship? So gold is a currency. And my point here is that uh Sing dollar. Yeah, it's not about gold market. Of course, you want to be interested in gold market. I do not think I want to add on any more gold, but I will keep my gold that I've invested in the past. Yeah, because I think gold is getting a little bit pricey. So therefore, I'm more interested in the Singapore equity, which I do not think I've accumulated enough yet. Now, let's look at 30th May 2024. That's where I presented that uh, dollar Sing, it was at 1.344, and today dollar Sing is at 1.2970. So from there, it still continued to move down. So you have to understand that it's not just what we're seeing here, because investor understood that if I buy into Singapore stocks, honestly, I also buy into Singapore currency. In a time of uncertainty, in a time of inflation, it's important to also invest into stocks that is in this currency, who is Singapore dollars. So it's a double bonus. If the stock perform, that's great. But in the same time, I'm buying Sing dollars, so I feel safer as well. Yeah. So Singapore dollar is in that context is also like gold, because over the history, as you could see, you can compare to many other currency. I think the only currency that's stronger than Singapore dollars is Swiss. I have not come across over this period from 1980 to today. And is there any currency that's stronger than Singapore? I'm not sure, but so far I know Swiss is stronger than Singapore, but all the other currencies, Singapore has been stronger. So since about 10, 15 years ago, I was a broker before in about 15 years back. A lot of my customers ask me what currency to buy. I say Singapore currency is the best. So why bother to switch to other currency? Yeah. So which is true, because if you invested in house overseas, all this and that, it could be in other currency. But today you may have made some profit on the house, but in terms of currency loss, it kind of lever off your profitability. Yeah. So Singapore dollar is important factor. It's not just a stock, but it is also Singapore dollars. So now let's look at the Singapore FDI, because I also want to spend more time with during the Q&A. Maybe you can take on some question and we can look at the market as well. Now, FDI, what is FDI is called the foreign direct investment. It means that earlier I did discuss about as investor, to me, it is important that investors overseas also pour the investment in Singapore, because that it provide a lot of liquidity and support to our equity market, to our business environment. So let's look at the one in turquoise color. Yeah. So before COVID, in fact, is riding high, but of course, COVID, every investment stops, right? But let's focus on from COVID years in 2020 to today. You could see that it's on the rise. Yeah. So up to 2024, of course, 2025, the numbers are not out yet. So 2023 and 2024 are kind of quite the same. Yeah. But in the whole context, you could see that the foreign investors are still investing into Singapore market. So who are the major investor in our market? These are the country: US, United Kingdom, Japan, China. Yeah. Then in which industry are they investing in? Finance and insurance. And that's why you could see that our stock market, who are the one that is doing very, very well in the stock market, it is our banking sector. Yeah. So, but not forgetting other sector as well, wholesale and also manufacturing and the others as well. Okay, let's look at the DIA. Now, what is DIA is called the direct investment abroad. That means how much have we invest in other country? So which are the country that we are investing the most in? And the thing is that US have invested the most in us. Yeah, but who did we invest the most in? Not in US, but we have invested the most into China. Now, if you're going to compare China, combine China, Hong Kong to that together, it is way up here, right? If I got to combine them together. So to me, as I invest in Singapore market, I also have to be mindful that how is the China development is right now, because it's very simple logic here is that quite a number of our companies have a lot of exposure to China market. So I hope that China will do well. And I think the good news is that what I'm seeing here, my study is that China are starting at a very low base. So if there's any crisis, the of course most market will melt down together. But in any crisis, I think the because of the starting is a low base, so the any mishap will not be that detrimental. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying here is that China is on the rise. If you look at just look at the September last year, because they rolled certain measure, some stimulus package in China for the first time that I know in their capital market. From September last year to today, actually China has risen quite a bit. And that is also speaks to a reason why the Singapore market have broke above. You still remember I shared about the third quarter of 2024 last year. Singapore for the first time broke above and closed above. That was 3004. Yeah, 3004. And that ties in with the China when they roll out their stimulus bliss at the same time. So I do not think it's a coincidental. So in a way, I think my study is quite accurate that when if China start to move up, I think the Singapore equities will also benefit as well, because you have to understand that our listed company or non-listed company and the government also invest the most in China. So to me, that's very important. And we're going to look at one or two markets later on uh, in the Singapore listed company that have a strong exposure in China. Yeah. So how can we use this DIA, the direct investment abroad information, to plan our investment more effectively? Okay, so we're going to do some recap first. Um, I think I'm coming to an end of my presentation, but it means that we have a lot of time for Q&A. And also we can maybe can cross over to study some of the live market. I just did an event with SGX last week. This time I spoke about divergence. Maybe I can recap on some, because I also invite some of you to come back and join me to this evening as well. So let's do a recap on 30th November 2023. So all these I will already have it and I will continue to hold them. Yeah. But if you want to, if you don't have it, I think it's a good idea to look at them and maybe not buy now, buy on retracement, because now it's a bit on the high side. Let me just share with you my thoughts here. Now, first of all, during this period in 2023 November, so with CGSI, I presented a topic. Back then, I discussed about gold, why I see gold as a safe haven. And when was gold? Yeah, so you can see the how I apply the quantamental analysis. I understand about fundamental, which is we spoke briefly but quite in depth about gold, how I look at gold as a currency pair. Then gold was at 2000, but technically I'm seeing this. There was this cup and handle formation. Yeah, so if you don't know about cup and handle formation, that's fine. But whenever you see a cup and handle formation, especially the support has been long tested for decades. Yeah, or long tested, it depends on the time frame you're looking at. So usually once you break above the handle, you start to move up. But it's not just technical, it is fundamental as well. So where is gold today? Gold today, that was 2000, right? So gold today is at 4155. It's much higher. So you can continue to look at gold. In SGX platform, there's gold ETF. So do call up your your broker that asks them how to get involved in gold ETF. Or there's also a gold mining company in Singapore as well. It's doing quite nicely, but of course now it's at a high price. If you have not, you want to participate in gold, do check with your broker how you can do that. My advice is that don't chase after it. Go and on retracement if you can. Yeah. But what I'm interested in is I'll continue to hold on to my gold position. For those that are following us in CGSI, I think my statement is always consistent what I invest in. Gold now is a bit high. Personally, let me just move a little bit away from SGX. Is that let me just share with you a story. Yeah. So somewhere in the beginning of this year, before May, of course, my wife see that my portfolio are doing well, quite a bit of exposure in gold. So she also wanted me to invest for her in gold. Yeah. So she's doing well, so she got some savings. She want to invest in gold, but of course, I value her saving. I need to be I need to I need to be I need to safeguard her portfolio. So what I did is that I offer her, instead of buying gold, why do you get into the laggard, which is the silver. So which I did, I get in silver for her. Because you see the relation of market is that gold move up, so it gives me a strong signal that the inflationary fear is still there. So gold is moving up, central banks are buying, but the other precious metal are related. So sometimes they just need a bit of time. When the precious metal, the gold get too expensive, investor will always look at alternative. When they look at silver, it's so much discount, they get into silver. So in May, silver was about $30, 29, $30. So I get in a bit higher, about 32 average price. Along the way, I buy on dips. Now silver today is at 53. Yeah, so she's one happy girl. But the whole mandate is that I'm going to continue to hold. Now, the story is this, that our topic here is that Singapore market is like gold. So we focus on two things that I still believe that the inflationary fear is still there. I think it's not over yet. Looking at the different geopolitical tension, it may crawl back up. Yeah, so you could see that the central banks around the world are still in position for gold. So that sent me a strong signal that inflationary pressure is still there. So then you look at laggards. So silver is one of them. Then Singapore market is one of them. I just want to give you an example. So, but do you buy Singapore market today? I think it's more on the high side. But looking for the next crisis to come, personally, my personal take is that I was quite happy over the last 2 weeks because there's this AI crisis that's ongoing, right? So market dipped a bit, but after that rebounded. So I was a little bit disappointed because it means that when it rebound, Singapore still stay on the high side. So I was hoping that the external market, the AI valuation fear kicks in, so the market may drop much and Singapore market may do a retracement. So my plan is that on the next retracement, I would like to add on to uh, accumulate more, but at a nicer price, not at this point in time. Yeah. So for those who seeing what my strategy is, you can take that into consideration. Yeah. So now where Singapore market is that, remember, this is what I share. There was a wedge that started to move up. And on this day of presentation, August 2024, the market has already broken above 3,004. Yeah, so 29 August 2024, it has broken. So I advise them, I don't advise, yeah, do an advisory. So my plan is that was August 2024, right? So this is the April 2025. Now, what is April 2025? The event is the Liberation Day. So that day, the presentation in August 2024, of course, we don't see that yet. So this is what I'm trying to showcase you is that, so my strategy is that although it's at a high, but I always like to buy on, usually I would like to buy on retracement. So the market give us the opportunity that day, the Liberation Day, the market dipped a lot. So it touched the low, it touched this former resistance, and today's support, it bounced back up, and today we're 4,518. So what I'm trying to say here is that usually my style is that I do not prefer to chase after the market unless at this price the value is still there. But my whole outlook for Singapore market, ASEAN market, the precious metal market, the commodity market is that I think you still continue to move up. But of course, where do you make the purchase? For Singapore market, I will hope that the next crisis will come in where the market outside may drop much, but I believe Singapore will be quite cushioned. It also will drop, but this drop provide me that kind of discount that I liked. So that's my plan. I think many of my um, um, friends who are businessmen are also seeing that as well. Yeah, they're not into the financial market, but when I hear their plan, their thoughts, actually most of them are hoping for the next external crisis to come. So Singapore may also dip, but that will be a point of discount that we can get into the market. So that's what I'm planning right now. So of course, you can invest in the STI ETF if you find that the stock pick is difficult. So that was the slides that I presented way back in 2024. Yeah. So STI ETF was at 3.17. So let's look at the current market today. So again, my strategy here is that current market is at STI now is at 4,518. Look for the next dip to buy. Now, the next dip, it could be the support could be 3,009. So this dip was about 3,005, 3,004. This dip was during the Liberation Day. Now, my plan is this technical, it's not a recommendation, but it's a technical study. Is that at this high, have I bought any Singapore market? The answer is no. Okay. During the past few weeks, I've not bought into any Singapore market for long-term investment. But what I'm doing here is that I'm studying very hard on identifying which stock to pick. I'm doing a stock pick, but I haven't entered the market right now. So I study into them, look at some of the ratio, look at their business operation. If I like it, is it more tied to also China because we invest quite a bit to China. So it's not what I hope to see, but it's the fact that a lot of company are investing in China. So that part is important. That if they have exposure in that, so when the external market start to dip, Singapore market may dip. So my first reference point on the dip will be 3,009, which is quite deep, right? Yeah, but to me it's good, 3,009. But what if the market, let's say the crisis get a bit too lengthy and quite major, it continue to dip, I think I'll be quite happy because but I do not think it will come. But if it comes down to 3,005, that will be another uh a support that I'm seeing here. Yeah, so I need to reserve some uh balance so that if the crisis get a little bit more deeper than I thought, then I may get into the Singapore market to the extent that if that happen, if I say that, well, I got in quite a bit here, I want to buy some more here, but cash reserve is pretty low. What I will do is that I may even cash out some of the profitable trade that I have in gold market and switch over to the Singapore market. That's what I'm seeing here because the gold market exposure that I have do not pay interest, but a lot of our Singapore market they pay very good dividend. So I'm pretty confident in the next cycle to come, it will be a time of Asia market and Singapore. I think at this point in time, my assessment is that we are doing pretty well. Yeah. So now the next thing that what I can do here is that earlier I did mention about did I buy into Singapore market or stocks for the past few weeks for long-term investing is that the answer is no. But what I'm doing is that I do a lot of homework. So how I do it is this. What you can do is that every day or every now and then or every weekend when you're free, you look at the top volume or the top gainer, not the top loser. Okay, try to look at the top gainer, and then after that, you form some opinion. You scrub them through one by one. You look at the chart, look at the business model, look at their ratio, um, but SGX have this filter. You can do that as well. Usually, I will not buy too small a company. Say, for example, you want to buy a certain market cap, you can choose. It's not a recommendation, but it's up to you. If you want to buy some stock that's below 100 million, that's fine. Yeah, but to me, it's just a personal preference. Say, for example, if I put the market cap to be between 100 to whatever amount, yeah, the larger the better. PE ratio is up to you. And based on my profile, I'm 53 years old. So 55 years old in Singapore, we're supposed to switch our open our RA account, right? So what I intend to do is that it has to also pay me 2%. Yeah, if not more, the better. So this is my criteria. Not exactly, but just give you some example based on my age profile. It must pay me some dividends. So in case I invested in the stocks, I need to hold on a little bit longer. At least every year they still give me a good payout of at least 2% dividend. So when I type this, these are there's more to it. Yeah. Now remember, this is just A, B, C, D, right? There's all the way to Z. So it's up to you to choose. So for example, we discussed about um, the direct investment abroad is quite large exposure to China. Say, for example, I'm interested in China, but I'll advise you that you have the time over the weekend, comb through all of them, look at a chart. Say, for example, if I say I look at China aviation oil, I find that there's some interest here. It's pretty similar to the structure that we saw earlier, right? There's a period of range, or you can draw a downtrend line technically. You could see that it just finally break. Could it form a if those who is in the elliott wave could be one, two, three, four, five? Could it be that? Could it be tied to their China's also have their own their fleet right now? Yeah. So is there a possibility that that area may grow? Yeah, because it's into China aviation oil. Exposure is listed in Singapore. Their headquarters is in Singapore, listed in Singapore, but their main business, as you could see here, is in blue, is in China. So this is something that maybe I may be interested in it. I may be interested in it, but I think at this price point, it may be a little bit too high. But the good news is that I presented, I have prepared this topic in about a month ago, and today the market have kind of dipped to 1.4. As you could see here, 27 November 2025 is at 1.49 today. So I hope that we dip a bit further. Then at a point in time, I will just reassess the whole situation. Is it worth a buy? Dividend, I think they're paying quite a bit of dividend as well. So this is, again, it's not a recommendation, but I'm just showcasing you about how I scrub through all this potential trade. Uh, Personally, I hope that you can dip a little bit more Singapore market for me to pick up some good shares subsequently. So the February 2024, just want to showcase this to you here again. That was in last year, February. Yeah, so about 1.5 year ago, more than 1.5 year ago, that Singapore market is still at 3,003, about here. So I have this concept about every cycle. I have this concept for those that are following this concept. I think they are doing pretty well right now because we have this case study every week. I throw them a case study. Not all of them come to pass, but I think most of them will have this sequence of in every cycle. I believe that there's a range stage, but range long enough with some fundamental stimulus that it may move to a value stage. From a value stage, if that proposition is true, if there's a continuity, it may enter into a growth stage. But if this growth do not handle well, it can be a company, it can be country, then it will enter a decline stage. So this is what we're studying here. And where's Singapore today? So that was in February 2024, right? The case study that we have with CGSI. So Singapore today, we could see that there's a value. So back then, of course, I start to advocate about this understanding about every cycle there's a income value growth and decline stage since about 2020. Back then, my position for Singapore market is that could it be there's more tech company add into our composition? I was hopeful about that. But as time passed and I begin to realize that it may not just be just tech company because Singapore market has positioned itself as a safe haven nation. So I begin to understand. And beyond that, what bring value to Singapore market here is that so back then in that was a slides I presented some time ago. That I hope that Singapore became a tech hub, which it became the tech hub, financial hub, pharmaceutical hub, trade hub, air hub, green hub, and potentially moving forward, we may become an energy hub as well. So there's a lot of excitement that's in the air that I remain hopeful about the whole Singapore market. So with that, I think I just want to enter to a time of Q&A. Just want to, if you want to keep in touch with me, you can join, you can follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel. the name is My Name Kon Hao, and I have this website with some resources there. You can visit then after the Q&A you have time. And of course, I welcome questions if you have, but please don't ask me what stock to buy because I don't have a license to advise you. But if you find that you want to spar some strategy, I welcome strategy play on that. So I just want to pass this time to Pei Ling for any Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Konha, for the interesting presentation. So we actually do have a few questions on chat box as well and the Q&A box underneath. So for the rest of the audience, if you have any more questions, you can continue to type them in the chat box as well. So you have M here asking you, do you see China tech sector as their leading companies like Baba, Baidu, BYD, etc., keeps getting hit by geopolitical pressure?
Sorry, your last part of this question. Keep
Yeah.
what?
How do you see China tech sector uh, as their leading companies like Baba, Baidu, BYD keeps getting hit by this geopolitics pressure?
I think it's a good question. When it keep getting hit, if you look at the chart itself, but it keep going up. Yeah, not all of them, but some of them. I think Baba, if you look at Baba is from US, right? But if you look at the one listed in Hong Kong, it's called Alibaba. Uh, just somewhere around last year is at $80. Yeah, somewhere around last year $80. But today, I think the recent high went up to about 160. But today is somewhere around here. This period is about 150, 140. But you look at the whole magnitude from the last year, it was $80, but today is 140, $150. In terms of the fraction gain, is almost by 1/4 by now. Yeah, so there's a lot of geopolitical play out there, but I think we still have to focus on as an investor, if you understand about the trend. I'm not recommending Alibaba, but I think it sounds exciting to me because um, personally, if you look at Alibaba itself, of course, we do online shopping, right? That's based on my personal understanding here is that for the first time in the past, I see some friends buying products from Taobao, right? So Taobao is part of Alibaba. But because it's in Chinese, so I refrain myself from buying anything from Taobao. But recent months, Taobao have the English version. So instead of buying from some other platform, now I think my activities on buying online shopping have increased to buying Taobao, the English version. Yeah. So also getting, then my wife pointed out to me that you switch to the Chinese version, there's more product offering. So now my Chinese also improved. Yeah. So in fact, it's true that Chinese version have more offerings, but I'm happy with the Taobao English version. Now, just on that itself, the consumer behavior, yeah, so I'm a Singaporean consumer behavior have changed. So on that aspects, I think, I look at Alibaba in different light. On their arms shopping arms. But you also have to look at their numbers. Their numbers are not too bad. So ultimately, all these, whether geopolitical tension or whatever, yes, is a consideration. But I think the key is first we look at the business model. That's number one. Number two, not forgetting the financial ratio. It got to be healthy. In a rising interest rate environment, I think the free cash flow is important that they need to have. I'm not just referring to Alibaba, but any tech stocks. So I think if you ask me about tech stock in China, is a long haul. I think there's a bright future. But in between, there's volatility. If you find that it's a bit too high, like what we discussed in STI right now, it's a bit too high a price for me to get in now, if to add in new order. So I would just be patiently wait. But the thing is that the risk about waiting is that sometimes the retracement may not come. Yeah, so that's the risk that you have to take on. But the good news is that I have some, but it's always the investor dilemma that I have not enough of Singapore shares. So how do I have enough? I hope that the mini meltdown will come, then I can buy more. So same thing for China tech shares. At this price point, we are not starting into it right now, so I can't tell you. But I think the strategy is the same. Focus on fundamental, but apply technical to get into the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Konhao. Christina actually mentioned that she thinks that the Alibaba's future growth prospect is just beyond the online purchase. So, but more
Yes,
being
yes,
towards the
definitely.
future financial and tech enablers, like the listing of ants, they're
Mm.
another company. All
Yeah.
right.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to give you an example on my personal take. So I think it's more relatable. Yeah, of course.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
All right. Okay, move on to the next question. We have Jia Liu. He asked, while STI has typically been a safe haven, the past year climb seems to be partially driven by the price earnings expansion for Singapore market. Do you think the STI is still fairly valued and still have upside in the next 1 to 2 years? Or do you think that we should brace for a market correction?
Um, okay, let me just share with you the SGI chart. I think I'm prepared here. Okay. I'm not too sure if you are seeing the STI chart right now.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay, let me just share with you the chart on 12 month. Yeah, so this is a yearly chart. Why it was at 3004 or 3005 during the presentation or some years back with CGSI, even before I broke 3000, break this 3004, 3005. If you look at the yearly chart, which was not presented in the PPT slide earlier, so technically 3004 to be exact is about 3460, as you can see here. Yeah, on the right side. Yeah, if I move my cursor here, you can see it's about 34670. So technically 3470, it was a resistance. And let me just switch back to the quarterly chart again. Yeah, so you're able to appreciate better. Yeah. So on the third quarter of 2024, I say that even before that, we did a presentation in August 2024 of CGSI. Say any quarter if we close above 3470, technically I find that it's going to be a buy, right? So your question about whether Singapore is still a value buy, definitely. In fact, if you look at the whole ecosystem here for Singapore market, even for China market. So I did earlier mention about China market is at the low base, right? If you look at the China market and Singapore market is quite similar because we are still starting at a low base here. Now, if you compare about the year 2000 all the way to 2024, yeah, you look at our whole Singapore economy, how much have we grown? Or you compare to the China market in the year 2000 to 2024. Yeah, China market also started to move in September 2024. It's very similar picture that we are seeing here. But you look at how much China have grown, but the index doesn't gel with me. That means that um, a lot of product that we bought are made in China, and so similarly, the Singapore market over the last 20 years we have grown a lot. So to me, the equity market have not really priced into where we are today. But compared to US market, of course, they have their tech giant, all this and that. But from the year 2000 to today, they have moved up by many, many folds. But for our market, in Asia market, it just moved up by a fraction. So if you're telling me that where is the potential upside? Therefore, my topic here is that is potentially, I believe that we are still undervalued. Just look at our last 20 years. In fact, from the price point is average price for STI is about 3,000. If you're just going to average it, just doing this, just draw a line across about 3,000. And today is about $4,500, or not dollars, but 4,500 points. The fractional gain is not a lot, honestly. Yeah. So same thing for the Chinese market as well. But their produce is produced by a lot, much more, right? So on the low base basis, based on this assumption, I think the potential is still high. But as of now, if you ask me to buy into to add on, I think I will wait for a little while because the environment in the West are giving me some signal that potentially there will be some may have some greater volatility to come. And I hope it will come because if it come, we're going to see some retracement here. And this will be a point of uh, my plan. Any retracement, I would love to buy on dips if possible. It could be here, or it can go deeper. I would like to accumulate more of it. Yeah. So that's my point here. Yeah, maybe one last question, Pei Ling.
Yes, okay. So there is another question. So is there a correlation with countries buying gold and their country indices? Like example, if Singapore buy gold, will the STI go up?
Oh, A correlationship. No, I think it's not that. There's correlationship. Earlier, what I mentioned about correlationship is based on the topic about why gold have went up over the span of decades, especially 2022. It was because 2022 inflation comes in. So there's two elements, inflation plus over the last 3 years, there's also a lot of geopolitical tension as well, tariffs, war, all this and that, right? So on that two basis, gold is a safe haven. Therefore, we see that gold is moving up. So my comparison between gold and Singapore market is a Singapore market, it seems to me it is being positioned as a safe haven country as well. And for inflation hedge, we may understand a little bit more because we have a strong currency. And it's true that with a strong currency, uh, our buying power is much greater. So for those who like to travel overseas, you will know what I mean. The math will work out for you. So same thing for um, earning the Sing dollars. If you're earning Sing dollars, investing in Singapore market is the same equation here because you're investing Sing dollars with possibly a capital growth, and the currency hopefully will maintain stable and strong as we are expecting more turbulence ahead. Maybe it may come. I hope it won't come, but looking at the situation, if it comes, I think we're in good position to handle all this crisis. Yeah. So I think in that context, I'm doing the comparison with gold and Singapore market, not direct, but in that relationship of being a safe haven, and we have a strong currency to counter inflation based on these two factors.
All right, thank you, Konhao. I think we have come to the end of the presentation itself and the Q&A. I understand there's quite a number of questions that are still not answered yet, but maybe if you have any more queries, you can always email to Konhao that he shared his email address over there. You can discuss your strategy and everything else with him. Let me just share my slide. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. Appreciate if everyone can just share take a minute to actually help us to fill in the survey. I have actually showed you the QR code. Konal, are you able to see the QR code?
Yes, I'm able to see QR code.
Yes. So please help us to fill up this survey on the webinar, and we will see you in the next webinar. Thank you.